All right, everybody. This is part two, right, of the interview with Mr. Darius. I think the last time I did it was a couple of months back, right? So I'm going to skip that, the whole intro, right, and whatnot. If you want, you can watch, you can read the bio, you can watch part one of the interview, right, about him. So what happened was, it wasn't planned, but I think we went a little bit too deep about the deep high performance mindsets, right? So I was like, hey, let's do a part to talk more strategy, marketing strategies. But I think something that Darius is extremely strong at. I learned from him myself. He actually helped my business to grow multiple times in 2021 also. So yes, so let's get down straight to it, bro. So first question, right, Darius, just a quick one, right? What do you think are some of the biggest mistakes you see entrepreneurs or marketers that they are making right now in today's 2021, right? So September this time, right? In today. So what do you think are the biggest mistakes you see that entrepreneurs, marketers are making that's pissing you off?
Okay, using the word pissing. Yeah, okay. Anyways, thanks for inviting me back on the show again. Once again, I think marketing brings a lot of passion and enthusiasm into podcasts that you don't usually see. Like when you see like someone so hyped up and asking questions, right? But yeah, thanks for letting me be on the show again. I think there's a few things. I'll cover a few pointers. Okay. Let's go on with the fundamentals itself that really makes a huge difference. And that's the number one biggest mistakes. And this happens to me, this happens to my clients, this happens to I think almost everyone that I see. I think going into the whole business, right, and thinking of marketing as having multiple components in order for you to be successful. For example, you might think that, oh, I need a webinar, I need ads, I need funnels, I need a lot of different things itself. And a lot of times we think that, oh, we need a lot of different things in order for my business to work itself. And the analogy I always like to use is that, are you really building a skyscraper or are you building a stick house? Okay, a lot of people like to go into seminars, go into courses itself. I think that's why I love the whole movement of creating master implementers itself, right? People like go into seminars and courses, right? And then they gain like one additional insight, one additional skill, and then they try to add in. Like what it's like, right? It's kind of like adding different kind of sticks, right? And try to build like a house with different kind of sticks. What you're gonna end up is a stick house itself, a straw house. Okay, when in fact what you want to do is you want to have very solid foundational of the same exact brick. You think about it, right? If you think about a skyscraper itself, right? If you think about what kind of bricks they use for the building, it's gonna be the same brick throughout the whole building, am I right? You don't have different bricks. If you have different bricks, the skyscraper is gonna fall very, very easily. Okay, but most people when they go into the business is they're trying to learn different things. They learn, maybe they go to Vasubansa, learn about funnels, then they go to Peng Jun, maybe learn about ads, then they go to someone else, learn about webinars or whatever it is, and they try to learn like a lot of things from many different people, and then they try to build like a skyscraper, but in reality they're building a straw house or made of many different kind of sticks, right? Because they don't really know what works. The truth is, when it comes to business, it's kind of like building a skyscraper. It's one brick and using that one brick to build again and again and again and again, rather than trying to take different straws from all over the place and build a business. So to me, I think the biggest problem is that too many people are too diverted when it comes to their attention in marketing itself. They try to learn as many things as possible to build a business, when in actual fact, you just need to focus on one thing at one time and then build the skyscraper as you go along. Right. And when it comes to upgrading your skills, you might be thinking, oh wait, but what if I want to upgrade my skills? Go and learn from other people itself. That's fine. It's fine if you upgrade your skills, but only when you have set up your foundations in your business. That one brick. You know what's that one brick that's needed on a repeated basis, right? You're able to do it and build your business. The one thing I always like to tell my clients is this: if you don't have predictable results that come in your business every month, which means let's say every month you want to have 4 clients coming in. If you don't have 4 clients coming in every single month, you don't have a business, you have a side hustle, because your result is not predictable. Every month is like, oh, some months good, some months bad. That just means that currently right now you have a straw house. If you want to have a skyscraper, you want to make sure that you have one set of things that you do every single week, every single month, that you know is going to get results. And that's why I go back to the point itself. I think, Mark, you recently did a post on this, right? One of your biggest mistakes, right? I think in the past few months itself. And I like to tell my clients this: marketing, right, can become boring when it's done right. Marketing can become boring when it's done right. Why? Because on a weekly and monthly basis, my team and I do a same set of marketing activities. In fact, I don't really touch it anymore. But my team itself do a same set of marketing activities on a monthly basis. They get us clients. And to be honest, there was this one part of time where I was just telling my clients and just like reflecting like, wow, like actually marketing is quite boring. Right. At one point of time, we always think that, oh, when we start our business, it's going to be very exciting. It's going to be like, we're going to do something different every single week. Now, if you're doing something different every single week, that means that your results is different every week as well. Okay. And once again, building a business is having a same set of activities that you do on a weekly, on a monthly basis that gets you results. So the first thing I'll say is that if you're focusing on more than, if you're focusing on more than 2 things or 3 things, right, that gets you business, most of the time your attention is already diverted. And my whole example with this is very simple. Think of it as your energy of paying attention to one thing is 100%, right? If you choose to pay attention on 2 things, that means you are now diverted. You have 50% and 50%. Now, for those of you who are looking at multiple marketing strategies now, you're thinking of like, funnels, you're thinking of ads, you're thinking of webinars, you're thinking of a lot of other things to help you get more business itself, then that just means, right, the more number of things that you are focusing on, the more number of diversions you have, which means that your attention is never fully 100%. And that means your results will always be less than 100%, it'll be 50%, 25%, 12.5%, divide by half and half and half and half again and again. So think about how many things are you actually focusing on right now that brings you business. If right now you can't really focus down on what's the key activity that you do that brings in business, then that would be my biggest concern. My biggest concern will be finding out what's the exact system. For us, it's a system, right? The exact system or activity that you do that can bring in clients for you every single week and month. And if right now you already have a few in your mind itself, what you want to do is actually focus down on what it is that you need to focus on and what it is that really gives you the most business. That you will realize that there are some things, maybe you got 4 strategies. Maybe in your mind right now you got 4 strategies, or maybe one of it is in terms of producing content, and then the other three other strategies itself. Right? Maybe you got 4 strategies right now. You want to ask yourself which gives you the most number of clients, and then focus on that. And that's it. I think that's the easiest way to really go about going from starting all the way to 100K. And I think when you go above 100K, what I realize is that the difference from good to great is a small micro details. It's not about finding what's the next huge thing to add in. Oh, now that I got more traffic, I got more leads and everything, you know what? I'm gonna go and I'm gonna do something different. For example, right now I don't do any webinars, I don't do any ads at all. Right? You all know me, I never touch ads. I'm not intending to touch ads all the way to 8 figures itself, or maybe even 9, hopefully. Right? And so where was I? All right. So the thing was, once we hit 100K itself, we don't go about looking for what's the next big shiny thing itself, right? The difference between good to great, I realize, is the micro details. The micro details that makes the difference. You might be going back into whatever strategy that you're using and asking yourself, how can I optimize this even more? How can I optimize this to get greater results? I realize that the world-class marketers themselves, that's what they do. They have one proven set of funnel. I think the greatest example is a funnel. They have one greater set of funnel, right? Then you might be thinking, why don't they go and change their funnel to something totally new? They are changing, it's just that you don't see it. Because the change is like the micro details in the words that they use, in terms of the numbers that they use, the picture that they use. These are things that we don't really catch on. But I'll say the difference from good to great will be the details that you're focusing on, rather than trying to do something that's totally new to you and that you haven't really done before, just because you want to add in one more revenue channel itself. Yeah. So I'll say the biggest mistake will be always not knowing what are your needle movers in your business. That'll be a number one mistake itself for everyone in business.
Yeah, and I think it also boils down back to the foundations, right? About getting 1, 2 strong things done and just hone in on them, right? Because I think we also know that a lot of people out there, they're just like trying to find the next sexy kung fu strategy, right? But that doesn't bring them sustainable results. All right, so love it, right? So I think the next question is, right, I think this is more of a micro thing. This is actually a bit away from marketing. I just want to, this is something that came in my head, right? Which is, so at least for the space we are in, right? And I think a lot of people that are starting out in a service-based business especially, right? There's going to be a lot of one-to-one calls, right? A lot of one-to-one sessions, right? And one thing I've been getting from a lot of folks, right, which is that it actually gets a bit tiring, right? Or like you said, even marketing is boring. So if I do the one-to-one calls, the sales, I do it over and over again, right? Then it gets like, okay, you want like what? How do you actually approach it, right? With to actually make it less boring or mundane, right? Or even more exciting. Like how do you actually approach those calls, right? With that level of excitement, energy, right? Which you usually bring to all your calls.
Okay, awesome. So one thing you realize is go and watch the previous interview where I talked about GKI, right? Zone of Genius is one of it is Zone of Genius, understanding what it is. And understand that whatever that's out of it, you want to go and delegate away. And so if maybe in terms of your marketing and whatever that you do in marketing, for what we do with our clients, we're very known for 2 things: systems and delegation to VAs itself, so that we don't have to go and do the things that we don't really want to do, right? So for the things that you aren't very interested in doing, maybe it's in terms of sending emails, in terms of sending messages, following up with people, then obviously you don't want to be doing those things itself, right? And then when it comes to the key activities, maybe when it comes to sales wise itself, let's say right now you're not really hitting 10K a month. If you're not hitting 10K a month, then okay, maybe it's a little bit hard to delegate things like sales, things like maybe other key marketing activities that you do. I'm not sure for everyone else itself. For us, it's mainly through content and through the DMs and through building a community. So that's the three I'll say trifecta of what we focus on, right? And so for everyone else, it might be something different itself. But I'll say that for the things that there are some things that maybe you're doing on a repeated basis and you realize that, you start to get boring. And I think that's why I love the concept of starting to enjoy the process rather than the result. Because a lot of times, right, that we go through and we repeat the same activities again and again, we start to realize that, oh man, I'm doing this again, and I'm just doing this to get the result. And then only when you hit the result, then you start to get happy, right? Like, oh yeah, I got a new client itself. Then that's why I say the focus is a bit wrong. Because even though an activity can be boring, that doesn't mean that it can't be improved. And that's why I talk about the micro details back again, right? From going from good to great is looking at the micro details, which I was quite ignorant back when I first hit my 100K. I thought like, hey, you know what? The next thing I want to do is to go and learn something huge. And then I realized that, oh shit, actually what I should be doing is looking at the micro details and seeing how I can optimize and get it even like bigger and higher conversions and everything else, right? So going back to the point on going from 0 to 10K itself, and whether is it you want to delegate things out of your zone of genius. Now, if you're going from 0 to 10K itself, then of course you're going to do most of the things by yourself, right? And I'll say somewhere between from 0 to 10K, once you earn enough for you to survive and also to profit a bit, maybe then what you can do is to hire a part-timer that can help you out the things that you don't really want to do. Maybe in terms of content or designing or website administration and things like that, then you can go and delegate it, right? But when it comes to the things that maybe it starts to drain you a bit, for example, I think take the example, maybe I think the one you were going more towards is sales calls, right? Just for sales calls. Now, do I ever get drained when I hop on sales calls, even though I have multiple a week? I don't actually ever get drained on sales calls itself. And I think I understand where people are coming from when they start to feel like, oh shit, I feel very tired. And usually it's because when they hop into the sales calls or they're qualifying, I like to call mine qualifying calls because I don't really sell too much. It's more of like whether they want to work with me. To me, if you ever hop on the call with me, you understand that I will just present you and I'll just say, oh, do you want it or you don't want it? If you don't want, then good for you. You want, then also good for you. To me, at the end of the day, I will pick and choose my clients itself. If I pick and I realize that, hey, you know what, I like you, I'll present you the offer itself. You want to come on, you come on. You want to come on, then okay, good for you, man. Continue doing what you do, right? Ultimately, right, a lot of people start to get very tired on calls itself. Most likely it's because they're presenting the same thing again and again on the call. And that means that they have to give a lot of information to their clients on the call itself. That's why they become a bit tired, right? Because most of the time, if you think about it, on a sales call, for example, most of the time what you're doing is really just asking questions, listening, and really understanding where this prospect is coming from and saying, okay, am I in the best position to help them? If I am, then okay, I'll present the offer, and then they say yes or no, and then most of the time, in fact, our closing rate is like 90% now, which then makes me want to go and increase my price. So yeah, for those listening, I'm gonna increase my price. Actually, I am increasing my price now already. Past 2 weeks, we've already been carrying up increased price. So you'll actually be last week, actually, we formally increased the price for one of our programs itself. So just understand that if you are right now a bit tired when it comes to hopping into sales calls because you have many sales calls, which I think not exactly very relatable because this is only for those that have a lot of clients surging in with a lot of prospects at least.
Yeah.
But when it comes to, if let's say you got a lot of prospects and happen to be, okay, good, if you have a lot of prospects coming in and, in terms of the context of sales calls, you realize that that's not something you really want to do, then but at the point of time, you really can go and hire appointment setter. You can hire someone else to go and take calls for you itself. Yeah, but to me, I still like to take calls for one very simple reason. For me, I love to see what kind of client I'm working with. If I look at a client and, to be honest, within the first 5 minutes, I know whether that's a client I want to work with. And that's why I do have clients, like I'll say 20% of the people who hop the call, I just turn away, 20 to 30%. Like even though they hop on the call, they want to work with me, I just say like, okay, I don't think we're a good fit. Yeah. So that comes once in a while. I won't say most of my clients, but once in a while, 20% around there, I just say, oh, not good fit and move on. But for those that I find a good fit, I love listening to them. Because when I listen to them on the call already, to me, it's kind of like them gonna become a client already. And because our closing rate is also pretty high. So most of the time when I present, they say yes, and then we move on. Right. And I think that's a very good starting point because after the call itself, then that's where the whole onboarding process comes and I really start taking them in as my client. And because I know all about their problems in the call itself, it becomes a very smooth transition from there. Yeah. So to me, I love qualifying calls. The sense that because I get to fully understand where this client is coming from, understand what kind of problems that they face, understand what's really holding them back in their life. Okay, if you guys ever want to hop on a call with me, don't expect to just come on the call and then answer like, yeah, right now I'm just not having enough leads. Yeah. I don't really like answers like this because I really want to know exactly what's going on with your life. I want to know what's stopping you from some things that you're doing. How is it hindering you in your business? How is it hindering your life? Maybe there are some external factors itself that is playing to that. So I want to know the full picture. Because at the end of the day, if you're going to work with someone, that person better know the full freaking picture of what's happening in your life. And I think that's the biggest differentiator when it comes to results. For some of you might be thinking, right, I think maybe this will answer a question of how can I get more results from my clients. I honestly think that if you fully understand your client in terms of not just a business, but in terms of life, in terms of how they go about taking actions when it comes to their business, what their patterns like, right? What's their mindset like, right? What their habits like. When you fully understand how your prospect thinks and why they do certain things, that is when you are able to really push them to the next level. Because now you understand that, hey, I realize that the reason why most of the time their business don't move forward is most likely because of their own mindset blocks or whatever the identity is at the moment itself. It's not usually due to the strategies, marketing strategies, or business strategies itself. So once you understand that, then that makes the biggest differentiator in the results itself. So I think hopefully that explains and hopefully that answers.
And I think you went very deep, right? As in contextualize a little bit to sales calls and but what am I hearing is that like eventually you get to do what you love, right? But make sure you get the fundamentals right? Scale it up, right? And then find out what you love. I know you shared, I feel you're passionate about it, right? For sure, right? And then you can scale some of the things. The other thing I want to point out, right, which is the fact that like people are like, wow, it's the first time they're watching you, like this Darius very confident. That's what I'm gonna hear like people what. Right, which I love, right? But if anybody's wondering, like, how did Darius get to where he is today? He's a young guy, still 21, right? After, okay, right?
22.
22.
Okay,
just right, like 22, right? Go watch the first part one. I think that's the one thing I put on. Okay, so great, right? I think making sure that you get the fundamental right. Yes, you said a bit of business and then delegating what you might not enjoy, right? But moving on, right? So moving on a bit more the content right now, right? In the digital world, right? Obviously, you push out a lot of content. A lot of the clients push out a lot of marketing content, right? Like you said, that's one of the core parts of the strategy, right? How do you actually stand out, right? One of the top 2 to 3 tips, right? You actually advise entrepreneurs, marketers, right, on how they can stand out, right, with their content, right? Especially in today's crowded and noisy digital world.
Okay, okay, awesome. I think I want to answer one thing just like you mentioned, right, about Darius being very confident. Yeah, I do admit that I'm confident. But I can tell you that I'm unconfident, right, when I meet someone and I know that the person isn't a good fit for me. That's when I'm unconfident. Yeah. So just to take note, the only reason why I'm confident is because I love to talk to people that I want to talk to. For example, Mark. I love to talk to people that I want to talk to in the first place. That's one thing you have to understand. That's why I have this level of confidence. If let's say I have to work with someone, right, that I totally don't know, or I don't like, or like don't really have the same values, right? And my top 3 values are commitment, mastery, and vision. You don't have any of these 3, right? You hop onto my call, I immediately can tell whether you have the same values. Why? Because all my clients have the same values itself. In fact, it's very interesting. If you really go and ask all of them, one of their top 3 values will be one of my top 3 values as well. So that's exactly why I love and enjoy the clients I work with and everyone I hop on the call with. All those people that aren't a good fit in the first place, most of the time they don't really hop on the call. Yeah, most of the time they don't really hop on the call. Now, I'm talking referring back to the 20% that I do turn away sometimes. It's just because they're not at the right stage right now for me. Some of them, they're just starting out. I'm not really good. See, we talk about confidence, right? I can tell you, I'm unconfident with helping people who are starting out. So if those people who want to, start a side hustle and right now in a 9 to 5, you want to start a side hustle, that kind of thing, I'm not good at that. I'm not good at that. I can tell you I'm unconfident at that. I can tell you that's something that you ask me to do. I can get you results, but would it be very good results? I don't think I'll be very happy with the results itself. I'll be very happy with the process itself. Now, what I'm good at is helping people who already have businesses itself, specifically coaches and consultants who already have your own business, specifically marketing or financial consultants itself or coaches. Right? You have a business and you want to amplify, you want to hit 10K, 20K, 30K a month itself, you want to scale, then okay, let's go with it. But if you don't even have an offer, you don't have anything, I'm unconfident about it. Yeah. So now that was answered, let me just answer. What's the question again?
Yeah. How do you stand out, bro, in this
okay,
noisy?
right. How do you stand out in the noisy market? Yeah, I think a lot of people have different I won't say different, but I'll say quite common things that they'll probably say. I'm quite sure you also interview people like our mentors like Mel and Joe and things like that. I'm quite sure you ask these questions to multiple marketers and things like that. And if you really go and listen to all the interviews, because I can remember at one point of time, I was very, very into branding. So, I mean, not saying that I'm not into branding now, but I can remember at one point of time, I was just like really grinding out everything when it comes to branding. I was reading all the books, listening to all the interviews and everything. And I realized that people usually say the same few things when it comes to standing out. The number one thing that they always say is be yourself. Number one thing they always say is be yourself, because everyone is taken, so just be yourself. That's the number one thing that most people say. Second thing I think is people always say that to really be polarizing when it comes to your thoughts. Don't try to sit in the middle itself, because when you sit in the middle, then that's where you don't really attract anyone itself. When you're polarizing, someone like Donald Trump itself, you realize that you gain a movement, you gain people that want to work with you. Right? So being polarizing is also important itself. So usually I hear these are the two ways for you to really stand out itself in the market. And I don't disagree with these two. In fact, I totally agree with these two itself. And when it comes to branding, sure, we have a lot of concepts and strategies itself to make your branding positioning higher and things like that, all the micro details and concepts. To me, I think that those are the biggest two principles when it comes to standing out itself. To be very honest, I don't want to go on to talk about other strategies on standing out, because I think people hear a lot of podcasts itself and hear a lot of interviews itself. To me, as long as you understand those two and you are truly living it, then I think that makes a huge difference. Because even if I talk about other strategies itself, but if currently right now you're not doing both of that, being polarizing, right, and being yourself itself, which I think a lot of people that I see online aren't very polarizing to begin with. Right? If you're not polarizing, you're not really going to get much clients itself. So whatever strategies I tell you won't really help if your fundamentals are there. Right? Back to the fundamentals again. So I think with this two itself, right, then I think you're good to go in terms of standing out in the industry. And also, of course, I think one last thing, if I were to add one more principle itself, one more principle is being customer obsessed. Being customer obsessed. That's one of the biggest criteria for my clients itself, to be customer obsessed. Once I realized that, actually not once, because I don't think any of them have that symptom yet. If I realize that my client come on the call and then they feel like, they don't really care about their clients, or they're not really very passionate when they talk about clients, I won't be hesitant to drop them as my client for one very simple reason. If you're a service-based owner itself, I don't care actually whether you're a product or a service-based owner. As long as you're a business owner, the only reason why your business exists is because you have people that are paying you. And if any point of time you realize that you stop caring so much about them, you don't, okay, maybe in terms of passion wise, right? Sometimes we have passion, very high level of passion, low level of passion, that's cool. But if any point of time where you start to like drop in terms of the care that you have for your clients, you don't really care too much about them anymore, right? And it's not because you're burning out, but just because you don't really care too much about them. Then I think that's the biggest concern. Because the only reason why your business is alive is because these people are paying you money. And to me, I honor that agreement. I honor the agreement that if you're going to pay me, I'm going to give you 100% of whatever 100% that you paid me. If you pay me 100% of my worth and my value, I will give you my 100% as well. And so at any point of time, if I feel like, my clients itself are charging people 100% what they're worth, but they're giving back like only 50, 60%, that will be my biggest concern immediately. I won't even care about whatever business or marketing strategy. That will be my biggest concern. Because let's not even, I'll talk about standing out in a minute or so. But talk about business as a whole. To me, you talk about ethics, you talk about being a good business. I mean, it encapsulates almost everything itself. A business needs to care about customers in the first place. Okay, and in order to stand out in the market, to me, it's one very simple statement, which I think Kenneth Yu and I think a lot of other marketing creators also talk about it. is offering a solution that the market hasn't done yet. To me, that's the number one thing. My number one thing that I'm always looking at, like, is what is a problem in the market that hasn't been solved yet? I will want to solve it. I will want to solve it. And that's why one of my biggest values in terms of vision. Like, I always like listening to like Elon Musk, Steve Jobs. I mean, maybe they are not the nicest people, right? They're not the no one is ever perfect. Like, I think a lot of people always like to find fault with all the leaders out there. I'm not saying that they're perfect, but I'm just saying that I get inspired by their great visions of what they foresee their company and how the company go, when no one really thought of the idea or no one really pushed forward with the idea itself. Like, people will say, oh, Elon Musk didn't really create Tesla and things like that. But then the question is, who is really pushing forward the idea? But it's really the visionaries that are pushing up forward the ideas itself. So to me, if you are really customer obsessed, the number one question in your head will always be, what can I do that the market hasn't really solved right now? And you want to go and solve that. Of course, you want it to be under your niche. Like, if it's like something that's totally out of your niche, and don't bother with it. So yeah, hopefully that answers the question.
Yeah, I think three very big points, right? Even though for us, and I realize that sometimes we also have what we call that curse of knowledge, right? Because we're like, hey, actually, we kind of know it, right? But for a lot of people, right, it's like, oh crap, right? These are things I need to really think about, right? I think customer obsessed is one, right? Because that means that you start researching about them, you start being empathetic, right? Start going towards them, be yourself, right? Don't be someone you're not, because people can smell bull crap from a mile away, right? But I think what you talk about being authentic, I think that's the one to go a little bit on before I move on to the next question, which is, right? So some people are like, okay, how do I be authentic? Like, what do I do? Like, when it comes to posting, like, how do I know that I'm being authentic? Well, sometimes people are like they have a lot of message, like a lot of confusion and hate about what it means to be authentic. Like, how would you, right, try to describe to someone who might be very new, right, to the concept of trying to find authenticity in their messaging, right, or what they put out there on, let's say, social media?
Okay, I think usually I give quite long answers, right? Because I like to go in detail as possible. I think this will
Yes.
be a short. I think this will be a short answer itself. So to me, how I qualify as a copy that, like, okay, I won't say copy, content, a content piece, right, that is really authentic and transparent, is if I look at the content itself, it sounds like how you would sound like when you talk to me in real life. When it's not, and it doesn't really sound too much. I'm not saying that word for word, you must like say the exact same thing. No. Most likely not. But if it sounds like how you will talk to me in real life, then okay, cool. Then I know that this is you. But when I start to see, like, let's say, like, I literally know some people where they are like Chinese speaking, okay, and their Facebook posts are like all English, and their English are very good. And I was like, wow, but mainly they speak in Chinese. And to me, it's like, yeah, then my question is, who are you really attracting? You see, because people will be thinking, oh, that's their professional side. Okay, sure, if you say that that's their professional side, but let's say they serve Chinese clients, and your content pieces are based on English. Does that really help you in attracting Chinese clients? Not really, right, in the first place. So, I mean, that's just one example itself, lah. But when it comes to transparency for me, when I don't really use too much of the word authenticity. I'll use the word transparency, because I think that's a lot clearer. Transparency just means that who you are when you talk to yourself, right? A lot of people talk to themselves. Most people talk to themselves. I talk to myself a lot of times. So who you are when you talk to yourself, who you are when you talk to your friends, your clients, it should be the same way that you talk on social media itself. And when you can see it, and trust me, you will see some people on when you see that content itself, you immediately know, like, hey, this is definitely this guy who is typing this out. It's very clear why. Because when you look at it, you go like, shit, this is how this person usually talks. Like, when I meet them, realize this is the energy that they bring forward. This is the kind of words that they use, right? And if I ask you right now in your mind, you think about like the three most transparent people that you can think of on whether it's on Facebook or Instagram, whatever social media platform they use. I'm quite sure that you can think of these three people itself. And the only reason why I can think of these three people itself is because if you meet them in real life itself, that's how they're exactly gonna sound like in their as what they written in the content itself. I think that's really the key when it comes to transparency.
Oh, love it. I think thanks for sharing. I think that's a very good perspective. It's just basically about, like, if you talk to us in a normal basis, right? Is this really you, right? That's a very big, easy question to ask. Okay, so right, moving on. I think this we kind of talked a little bit about it right before the interview, right? Then we quickly let's quickly talk during this session so we can get it clearer. So, right, what do you think, right? I've covered a little bit, right? But what do you think are some of the biggest observations, right, of some of your most successful clients who get the biggest, faster, better results, right, versus those that might be stuck, not where they want, right? Even after you qualify, right? So what do you think are some of the little traits and characteristics from both from a mindset perspective, right, and even from the implementable, right, business perspective? What do you think are some of the different traits that really can help folks to move the needle further, right, to accelerate their progress as well?
Okay, and awesome. I think that's a great question because currently right now all our clients get results. Currently,
Yes.
I mean, I'm grateful. I'm grateful and I'm happy to know that all my clients get results. But then, like what you say, there are some that grow faster than others itself. I think there are quite a lot of things that are done differently itself.
Yeah.
Now, that's a good question in a sense. I'll say the number one thing is being highly adaptable. Being highly adaptable and taking in feedback. So that's number one. Being highly adaptable and taking a lot of feedback. Now, for me, since young itself, I love feedback. I love feedback because technically I started working at 13 years old, and the environment always encouraged my working environment when I was at 13 years old always encouraged feedback, which means things that we do well, we appreciate. Things that we don't do well, we're gonna point out and say whatever the truth is. We don't beat around the bush of like, oh, we say something nice first, then we tell you, the hamburger theory that we say something nice and tell you the feedback, then say something nice again. I mean, yeah, that's a good way for people that are not that are like resistant to feedback itself. And that's the huge difference I realized, because there are some people who can take feedback a lot greater than others. I have clients where I tell them, I point the blind spots and things like that. And then they start to think like, okay, like then they go like, oh shit, I realize I have this problem and things like that. But the first thing, right, I always look at the response that they're gonna get. The first response, right, shouldn't be in terms of, oh shit, I screwed up in this. The first response should be like, okay, why is this problem over here, and what's the solution, and how are we gonna solve it? That's the first thing we're gonna go about. Not really in terms of focusing on the problem, but focusing on the solution that's coming up from it. So when I look at the response, some people will go about saying, oh shit, like, wow, I screwed up in this mistake. Or maybe they become sad about it. Then they go like, oh, actually, usually I'm not like that. Then they try to create reasons and things like that. I mean, sure, you can create reasons and internalize what happened. Right? But more importantly, I'm looking at how you bounce back from that feedback itself. Okay, how you bounce back in the feedback itself. And the honest truth is, you ask my clients that I give very direct feedback. And that's the reason why I say that I work with the clients I want to work with. If you can't handle feedback, then it's not really a good fit, because it's hard for you to get results in the first place. When I want to give you, like, let's say I need to tell you something that can get you 10K more itself. But then because you can't accept the feedback, you go about mopping and go like, oh, Darius tell me something very harsh. Then I'm like, shit, then you miss out this whole opportunity, right? Just an example. Okay. So that's the number one biggest difference. Being receptive, the difference of being receptive and loving feedback. Some people are just receptive to feedback. They go, oh, okay, yeah. Then they start to internalize, like, then they probably have their own like inner critic and things like that going in their head, and then they try to process, try to overthink it. It's very normal. It's very normal. Yeah. Then there are people who really love feedback. They want my feedback itself, even though sometimes it might be direct. But that's because they love it. And to me, that's what I love as well. I get coaches, I get multiple coaches itself, right? Because I love to get the feedback itself. I always ask them, hey, how can I do this better? Or, hey, what sucks here? Right? If I want to ask something, I'll just ask very directly. Of course, the questions that you ask definitely is very important as well. How you ask the question. Ultimately, is loving the whole process of getting feedback.
Yeah.
To me, the greatest rate of growth is when you're able to bounce back faster. So let me give you an example, right? Because everyone will always face obstacles. Right? Everyone will always face obstacles itself. So just imagine it like a kind of like a graph. Like you go up, down, up, down, up, down itself. Right? Some people, they'll hit obstacle, then they go down, and then they take some time before they respond, and they go up, back up. But then there are people who just take the direct feedback and they immediately just jump back up again. Yeah. So I think that's the huge difference between the growth rate itself, because if you're going to go down and it's taking you more time, other people are already bouncing back up already. Yeah, so that's the number one difference when it comes to the growth rate for some clients in terms of business wise.
Nice. I think being able to take feedback. So how about the other aspects or other reasons you feel that they might make the difference as well?
Yeah. So I think, like I say, one thing is feedback itself. The second greatest pointer that I can really think of is some clients itself are very, very committed to the whole process of mastery itself, while some clients itself are more committed to the results. So one thing I always like to say is the practice is the result. The practice is the result. And I like to just say that the result will never be the practice. Very simple reason. Because people will say like, oh, if I study for an exam, I should score well in the exam. Right? Then they always look at the exam because why? We're brought up in an Asian household. Right? So results are always what we are focused on. I'm super results oriented, by the way. If you ask everyone around me, I'm super results oriented. Right? But that is when I started to realize that I have to learn to love the process and the practice as well. Because let's take the example of like studying for an exam. Right? And then you realize you didn't do well in your paper. Then you go, shit, I think I never practiced well. The truth is, most of the time when it comes to the results, it's not just based on the practice, it's based on the environment. What was the state that when you enter into the exam itself? Like, how were you feeling when you enter the exam itself? Maybe it's the questions that they ask itself. That maybe you practice like crap, right, on a lot of the things, but it's just that the question was something that is totally out of the world. Like, it's not even like you can answer, no one else can answer as well. There are some questions sometimes that exam like that. Right. Another example is if you go and look at 100-meter races, or you go and look at 100-meter swimming races itself. You can have an Olympic champion of 4 years ago that was gold, but now it's not gold or not even in the finale itself, right? But the thing is, it's not because he didn't practice well. It's not because he didn't practice well. He can practice like even more than when he first won his gold medal itself. But it's just because during that point of time, that state, maybe it's the environment, maybe it's how he entered in the feeling. There's so many things, so many external factors that we cannot control. And so to me, I always like to say that the result is not something you can control, but the practice is something that you can control. And that's why to me, the practice is the result. How I look at my clients itself is I'm always looking at what they practice. How do they go about in terms of conducting the calls? It's not about whether they get the good result or not, because sometimes you can get a good result with bad practice.
Yeah.
And when you have bad practice and good result, that means it's a fluke. But in your mind, it's like, hey, you know what, I'm good. Why? Because we measure based on results. A lot of us like to measure based on results. We look at the result and go, hey, you know what? This result is good. Means whatever we did was good.
Yep.
Then that's why I say, okay, you have to go and split test. You have to go and do this like a hypothesis. Do this, experiment it again and again. Then you realize, okay, maybe this is really a good practice. But then sometimes we have bad practice and we get good results. And we think that the practice is good. And that's a problem. To me, I'm always focused on the practice. I'm not too focused on the result itself. The result will just be a part of what the practice is.
Yeah,
so do the same practice again and again, then that makes a huge difference. Because when you start measuring based on results, then you start getting a bit demotivated. You start to drop, right? And then while these people are continue building their momentum and go higher, that's exactly why your growth rate will be a bit different.
Yeah, I think I love it. I think there's a bit of a connection between feedback and results, right? Well, sometimes, of course, results are feedback at the same time, right? So I'm just curious, right? So when it comes to, because sometimes when it comes to taking feedback, right, if I go a bit deeper on that, right? Sometimes, right, people are also, of course, there are also times when, in my opinion, right, that people tend to take too much feedback from everywhere and just get messed up, right? I think that's one question, right? So how do you actually manage that, right? To actually, there's something that's true to you, right? And number two, right, which is, how long, right? Let's say because if you're just thinking about the practice, right, but you keep practicing and practicing, but the results is not where you want, right? How do you know that it's actually time to change it up, right, to actually improve and optimize it even further as well, right? So how do you actually address both challenges for folks when it comes to feedback and results?
Okay, can. I'm hearing two questions first. Let me see.
Yes.
The second question was
when do you know, right? It's time to,
right? Okay, yeah.
Maybe
So
time to shift.
I'll answer that first. Okay. Then I'll go with the other one itself. I think in terms of when to shift results, I have a funny story itself, because when I first started out, I think I tell this story a long time. When I first started out, right, my first 6 months on Instagram, I just posted 3 pieces of content every day. And I spent about 4 to 5 hours every day just to manage my Instagram account. And that went on for 6 months. So that means I produced about 540 pieces of content. I had no idea why, right? At any point of time, I realized, I look at it and I realized, hey, you know what? This isn't working. Maybe I should change it. Right?
Yeah.
But I went hit on for 6 months. The first month, I didn't get much followers. I got like less than 100 followers, I think, around there. And the second, third, fourth, fifth, 6 months. In 6 months, I produced 540 pieces of content. I only have 500 followers. My number of content was more than the number of followers itself. So the thing was like, wow, okay, that's kind of stupid, right? Doing the same thing again and again, right? Which I think is a very good example when it comes to knowing when to shift on. Yeah, so I think when it comes to knowing when to shift on, I won't say that there's a gauge for everything. It doesn't mean that, one thing, like for example, in terms of content itself, after 1 month itself, you should know new change. Or after 2 months itself, you know how to change. I think it really varies from circumstance to circumstance.
Yep.
I want to talk about the thought process behind when you want to change itself. So how I look at things that needs to be changed, right? is when I look at something, and let's say I want to get a result. Okay, let's say I want to get a result itself. And if I do this, right, let's say if it's a big task, I understand, first of all, you have to understand, right, that this task, are there multiple components that you have to do in order to get this result itself. Okay, in the example of content is just content. There's nothing much to be honest, but it's just produce, it's just content again and again and again. Right, but let's say if you talk about getting clients, okay, getting clients, then you have a few other components, not just content itself. Right, hopping in the call is also another component. So you have multiple components. What I always like to do is to look at the big picture first, rather than looking at, oh, I practice this, I get this result. No, let's look at the big picture first. In order for you to get a result, what are the components or the steps that you have to do in order to get the result itself? For example, I want to get more engagement on my posts. For example, what's the step I have to do? Create posts. That's it. Right, create posts, design it. Okay, 2 steps and max. Right, so when you create and design it itself, then what you're doing is measuring what's the practice over there. So if let's say, right, I only got 2 components itself, which isn't a lot, right? It's not a lot of components itself. To me, in 1 week or 2 weeks time, I can gauge and look at, okay, whether my content is actually doing well or not. But when it comes to business-wise itself, like business-wise, probably like there are 5 or 6 steps to go through the whole process itself. Right? From content, then talking to them, then hopping on the call itself, then them joining a call, maybe 4 or 5 steps itself, right? And so the result itself comprises of many different steps, and these steps are pretty big, but it's not really small steps. These are big steps in each of this process itself. Not like creating content. Creating content takes how long? It takes about 10-20 minutes 10-20 minutes to create a content. So once you understand the steps itself, you want to ask how long does it take to go about executing each step. And you realize that, oh, getting a client, wow, there's actually many steps, and each of these steps takes quite some amount of time. So obviously you can't just look at 1 week time or whatever you do and then deem like, oh, this thing works. But you're gonna do it for this at least 1 to 3 months, probably around there. 1 to 3 months. I'll say 3 months is a good gauge maybe for this. Yeah. So it's understanding how many components, how many steps are there, and how long does it take for each of these steps. Right? Because once you understand how long each of these steps take, then you got kind of a good gauge of when you can test until, and then you realize I got to change. Yeah. Okay. So I think that's the thing that most people kind of fall for. People think that, oh, I'm not getting clients now, means the strategy that I'm doing sucks. When maybe you only test for 1 week. Yeah. If that's for 1 week, that's not gonna be a very good gauge itself. In fact, I give you a very good example, a very good logical example. Okay. When marketers do split testing, okay, if you want to know what split testing means, you just basically create 2 different pages, and then we see which one get higher conversion. Right, when you want to see, right, when you want to have a good test, which one is better, we need at least like about 10,000 views, roughly around there. Okay, I think some people do 1,000 views. I mean, it really varies from marketer to marketer, but I do know quite some other people look at 10,000 views. 10,000 views is a lot. Think about it. That's quite a lot of traffic that you're getting. 10,000 people to come onto your page itself. That's a lot. Okay, so just understand that, like in terms of just a split page itself, people take 10,000 people. So testing a strategy for a business to get clients, right, it wouldn't take like 1 week for you to go like, okay, this works or this doesn't work. Yeah, unless you realize that that strategy is not in line with your values. Very important. That's why I think when it comes to getting a coach or mentor, right, which I'm going to link back to that first question, right? You asked about who do I go about asking for feedback, and how much feedback should I take, right? And that's why when it comes to a coach or mentor itself, you want to make sure that the coach that you get is in line with your values itself. If the coach isn't in line with your values itself, most of the time the strategy isn't in line as well. Maybe some coaches out there still teach things like follow, unfollow, and things I don't know lah. Maybe there are some coaches that still teach that kind of things. But and to you, maybe you don't really care. You just like, okay lah, whatever they do results, I can go and do follow, unfollow. But maybe for you, you're hearing this like, follow and unfollow. No lah, I don't want to do that. But then obviously you don't want to have a coach that don't really care. You just do whatever you to get the results itself. Obviously you don't want that. Right? So once you get a coach or mentor itself that you're fully aligned with the values itself, then trust the process. Unless, once again, you have different values. Yeah, if you have different values, then most likely you won't trust the process. And then all the more, I would say don't enter it in the first place. Yep.
And don't even receive the feedback in the first place, right?
Yeah,
exactly. If you think that they're different values.
Exactly, because there are some people out there who realize that, actually, I don't really like to do ads, or I don't really like to do webinars. Right? All the people that don't really do webinars, they come to me like, I don't do ads, I don't do webinars, I don't do funnels. Some people realize that, I don't want to come creating funnels and like do different funnels and then do ads. There are so many components itself. I want to simplify this, and they come to me as well. Right? So you realize that the people I attract as well is based on the values. It's also based on whether they're aligned to the kind of marketing that I want to do. You want to do organic, you don't want to touch like funnels, fancy tech, and all these kind of things because I'm a tech noob as well. Then let's go. Right? We simplify the heck out of things and we scale with it. So that's it. Let me go back to the question of answering in terms of feedback wise, right? And I think in terms of feedback wise itself, I used to always look at getting feedback from as many people as possible because that's what I thought. I thought that, you know, I get from as many as people as possible, I'm gonna grow even further because they say more feedback equal more growth.
Yes,
right?
yeah.
But it's the quality of feedback that you're getting as well, and who are you getting it from? And so to me, I always like to have a trusted board of advisors, people that I know that at have different expertise itself. And let's say, for example, I want to know more about like my identity and peak performance myself. Then maybe I go to Daryl, right? Which you have interviewed before. And let's say maybe I want to know more about YouTube ads, which I'm never ever touching ads. Okay, example only. YouTube ads. Then I'll go to who? I'll go to Brian itself. Then for example, let's say I want to know more about really scaling. I really want to know about scaling itself, a lot about hiring the right people and systems and things like that. I go to Alvin Poe, for example, right? Then for certain different expertise itself, you have different people to consult to, right? But more importantly, I'll say it's not really just having this trusted board of advisor, but having a coach or mentor itself who has sort of a similar business model to you, or has sort of already done what you really wanted to do. Yeah, when you have someone like that, that's when you become very clear of what the steps that you have to take. Because let's say that even if you go to a scaling coach, you go to somewhere else, and let's say you want to scale itself. But if let's say they are not used to your business model itself, it's going to be hard. They're going to look at your business model and they're going to go like, you want to do something like what we do. Then you go like, oh, I'm resistant to it. Yeah. So it's very important for you to take feedback from someone who has already gone to where you want to go and done what you want to do. Yeah. Or someone that you know who is very in line with your values. Like, all boils back down to values again. If you know that the person is very in line with your values itself, then you know that person, when it comes to strategies and things like that, most likely will be aligned to you as well. Yeah, so that's what I'll say in terms of feedback wise.
Yeah, I love it. So I think one thing besides just the values, right, and the quality of it, right, it's about who is your trustable advisor, because it's not like you have one person advise you on everything, right? You don't get like someone might be damn happy in their business, right, but might not in their health, right? So if you want to take advice for health, right, then don't get to the person, right? So I love that. I think that direction, right, about receiving feedback, right, instead of getting everybody. But that's what I used to be guilty of. I love to get feedback from everybody, right? But obviously that wasn't working on some level as well. All right, so I think with that, right, I think we'll come to the last question, right? What's in terms of time, right? I think I love what we have gone through so far. I think a lot of not just in terms of actionable tips, right, strategies, but also mindset and perspective as well, right? So any final word when it comes to, right, what do you think some of the, whether is it marketers, entrepreneurs, right, business owners, right, need to really be considering, right, moving forward when it comes to the new digital world, right, when it comes to their business or their marketing strategy, right? It's going to be, my sense is going to be a lot more competition, right, a lot more crowded, right, a lot noisier, right, a lot more tools to move even things faster. So what do you think are some of your general direction advice for folks who are actually in their business and want to grow and scale it over the next couple of years?
Yeah, awesome, man. That's a good question. So I foresee like the market in the next 1 year, like what you say, to become more saturated. The reason is very simple, because ever since COVID happened, a lot of people are trying to set up a business now. Why? Because we can work at home, and we work from home, we got a lot more time to set up a side hustle and then turn it into a business. So you see a lot more coaches, you see a lot more marketing consultants / agencies, you see a lot more financial consultants as well. You see a lot of people going into the entrepreneurship road. Why? Because you are at home, or maybe you lost your job. You lost your job, then you go like, shit I must do something about it, right? So a lot of people will be coming into this market itself. You'll become very oversaturated. I would say that you will start to see other people and go like, oh shit, that person is mediocre. I don't know why that guy's in the industry, right? That's the kind of thought that you'll probably have, right? And you'll start to see more like, in a way, mediocre people coming into the industry again. And it gets more flooded, which means when it becomes more flooded, it means that there's more criticism to the industry as well. There are more criticism, there are more skepticism to the industry. There are more people who realize that, hey, there's something that I don't really like about these people or whatever it is, no matter what industry that you're in as well, as long as you're in the entrepreneurship journey itself. So I think for the foresight, right, that I was just telling my clients the other weeks itself, is transparency is extremely important as we enter into the next era of generation. I don't even talk about 1 year, I talk about next 10 years itself. Transparency is very important. Like for example, if you're gonna go about telling people, hey, you're gonna do this, you yourself better be doing it yourself. If not, people are gonna expose you. And it's very easy for people to expose you nowadays. Why? Because information is everywhere on the net, right? So I think to me, transparency is very important in the next generation, which I already talked about earlier. Second thing, in terms of making sure you can thrive while everyone's trying to fight over like scraps and everything, I'll say. Yeah, trying to fight over the same pool of people that you want to be targeting. I'll say once again, it boils down back to the question, the answer of really focusing on what the market doesn't offer yet. A lot of us like to go into our business and go and look at what other people do. And if we look at what other people do, it's like, okay, how can I be different? That's the kind of question that they usually ask, right? They ask the question, oh, how can I be different? Right? But when you ask how can I be different, then pretty much what you're doing is kind of like it's kind of like buying something and then just taking out the label and then putting your own label to it.
Yeah.
That's the difference. Like whenever people say, how do I want to be different? I'm just reminded of vanilla ice cream. Right. And then it's just different packages of vanilla ice cream. To me, vanilla ice cream tastes like vanilla ice cream. I don't care whether Haagen-Dazs, Ben and Jerry, it's still vanilla ice cream. Will I pay ungodly amount for vanilla ice cream? I won't. Maybe to those hardcore vanilla ice cream fans, which I don't think I know hardcore vanilla ice cream fans. Right. The hardcore fans that you usually hear of are what? Things like dark chocolate. You have like hardcore fans of like dark chocolate, like pistachio ice cream. I don't know things that are a little bit unique or things that market don't really offer much. You realize that there are like huge fans in those areas itself. And whenever you jump thinking of like, oh, how can I be different? Just understand when you ask yourself that, then you become like vanilla ice cream, just like with a different packaging. Instead of Haagen-Dazs, now you're Walls. Or Walls is a much more inferior brand. Sorry, I don't know if Walls gonna ever sponsor me ice cream. But yeah, like you don't want to go about asking us how can I be different, because you just slap a different label. Okay. I think the question to really answer is, what is a deep problem that the market hasn't solved yet? And there is bound to be a problem in the market that other people haven't solved yet. And you might be thinking, right now you might be thinking, oh wait, no way. I think right now looks like everyone has kind of solved a problem. Then I will highly encourage you to go and talk to your clients. Because once you talk to your clients, okay, one very good question I'll say is to go and ask all your clients this. It's very amazing. When we started doing this with ourselves, we started doing it for our clients itself. It brings a lot of joy to me. It brings a lot of joy to my clients. It brings a joy to everyone itself.
Yeah.
I like to ask people this. What is your dream? Like 20, 30, 40, 50 years down the road. Like 50 years down the road, right? What's your dream? Okay, maybe not 50, I'll say 20 years down the road in your business. What's actually your dream? And I don't want you to put any limiter on it. Like if you could do anything, if you could wave a magic wand, what is your dream 20, 30 years down the road? What do you want to have? What do you want to be at? Where do you want to live at? Where do you want to be? What will you be doing? Right. And whenever I ask that question, you start to see people start really wandering off. And you realize that people start to think of things that they never think of before. And you'll be very surprised that your clients will have kind of a similar dream itself. You'll be very surprised that your clients will have sort of a similar dream. For example, one of my clients, financial consultant itself, she realized that a lot of her clients like to go about traveling. Like their dream is to be able to go travel around the world. If they could do anything, they would want to go travel around the world. And she realized that she had similar responses for majority of these people. I was like, shit, that's very interesting, because like then you totally position yourself very differently from other financial consultants itself. Really, why? Because right now you're helping them achieve the dream of what? Having enough cash so that you can visit a country every single year. Then probably that fulfills the dream. Am I right? Right. Compared to other consultants that will come about saying that, oh, I help you to save your cash, I help you get greater ROI, I help you get 100% I help you get this and things like that. Right. But at the end of the day, if you really go and take your time to go and understand what's the dreams that your clients actually want, you start to open up your world very differently, because you truly understand where your clients want to be. And not just like, oh, hey, I help you get more sales, hey, I help you get more leads, hey, I help you do this and things like that. To me, the huge difference, and you will know that you are going to solve something that the market doesn't solve when you understand your client's dream outcome, and you'll be different. Every one of our clients will be different in terms of the dream outcome. Like for the financial consultants, her clients like to travel around the world. Maybe for another financial consultant, it's a totally different thing itself. Yeah. Maybe another financial consultant is in terms of their family. They want to make sure that their family is able to like, have enough cash to go to university for their kids and things like that. Maybe that's a concern itself, right? So everyone all have their own dreams itself. And it's very important for you to go and ask this question, because it really opens up your whole world to what you really are in the business of. What are you really in the business of? Right? What are you really in the business of? Ask some questions of what's your dream? And you realize that there are similar patterns in your clients itself, because you probably have sort of a similar dream to them as well.
Nice. I love it. I love ending on with that, right? I think it's all back to client obsession, right? Knowing what the dreams and knowing what we're doing all this for, right? Because sometimes we're in a race, we forget about all this, right? And I love that you end off with that, because I think that is really what we are all doing, is to achieve our dreams of life. Yeah, with that, I think thanks so much. Into the time, right? I love it. Maybe we'll part 3 down the road, who knows, right? But I think there's a lot of good stuff, right? So if you guys want to follow Darius, right? I'll put the links in the description, right? He works with a very selected group of people, right? So you can just check his out for his content right now for the time being. But yeah, with that, thanks so much, Darius. Love what you have to share, right? And for those who are watching, right, I give him a shout out, or I can tag him, drop him a follow, right? If that's the case, if you really like what he did, right? I'll see you guys soon for the next Mathematics interviews. Bye, folks. Thanks, Darius.